Hey there everyone, back again with another video. I just watched Tips Out video on the thing that will kill Classic if it is implemented, which is the right-click report tool, and rightly so, because I totally agree that it is a huge problem to have in the game. For anyone who doesn't know, the right-click report tool, basically, if enough people spam report on your character, and it can be live in-game, you know, in a rated battleground or something like that, you can watch videos of like Asmongold and his group like testing it out, where they'll actually like live ban people who are on the opposing team. It's pretty funny to watch, but it would be absolutely terrible to have in retail Classic for numerous reasons. There are some problems, though, with just straight up removing it from the game, and those are kind of what I wanted to talk about tonight, as well as I wanted to go a little bit into like how customer service works for a large technical network. I've worked in IT for quite a while now, and part of the process of like customer service and help desk, which is basically like, you know, people call in, they have a problem, or a ticket gets submitted that is, you know, there's an issue, you have to deal with it. Part of that process involves a large amount of manpower. And this is kind of what I think the core issue is, because Blizzard, you have to understand the way that IT has kind of changed in the last like 20 years. It has gone from how the servers used to work, where we had like dedicated server blades for each server. So you had like the ones they auctioned off a couple of years ago at that charity auction. Those were the physical servers. Each one of those was a server, and that housed the player base for that group, or for whatever server that was, you know, on that blade. And so you had these dedicated blades. The way that a lot of that has changed, and I think this is probably the way that Blizzard has implemented their server technology. I don't want to say for sure, because I honestly don't know, you know, if this is the route they went. It would make a lot of sense if they had, because the way that servers commonly work now, if you have a large amount of people on your network, you want to have a large, basically it's a server pool that takes all of your processing power and all of your RAM and all of your storage space, and it just compiles it into one giant bank. And then you can allocate that bank into different areas, and you can also smartly allocate that into different areas. So you can have a like kind of an AI process. I don't want to say AI, it's not specifically AI, but a load balancing process, basically, that will take, say you have, you know, 5,000 people online on this server, and that server is starting to lag a little bit. What happens is it will automatically load balance a certain amount of the player population from one server to another. And I think that's kind of how they've implemented their phasing technology, and I think that's why it has to work the way it does currently. This does a couple things. It allows them to have much less server hardware infrastructure, as far as like having to have a physical box for each server. Now you could have multiple you know, dedicated servers on one box, but I really strongly think that they probably went the route of like kind of implementing it in a way where you have that kind of load balancing structure. So say you have, you know, 500 processors and, you know, on 250 motherboards, and you have all of those in a giant big cabinets, right? If you have to have a dedicated box per server, that could potentially increase the amount of amount of physical room that takes, and that there's a lot of cost that goes into that. There's the physical, like the air conditioning. You have to have your room air conditioned for the servers to maintain temperature. It is a lot of power draw, so there's electricity cost. There's a numerous amount of issues that go along with having like a large amount of physical servers, and so I could see why they would consolidate to a virtual server base. So that kind of also goes into how their customer service is going. People cost money, so if you have a service team of people that have to like live look at tickets that are coming in, it's going to cost a lot of money, because each person has to be sitting there. You know, you get down at your desk, and this is part of, you know, help desk process. You have a ticket queue, you open the queue, you get a ticket assigned to you, and it says, I am having an issue with whatever, you know, my character is stuck and the unstuck button is not working. So you have to then go ahead, take a look, you know, physically go in. Okay, yeah, that character, I can confirm that that character is stuck, and you have to document all this too. So you go in, you document everything. You say, yep, the character is stuck. It is stuck at this position at this time. This is the class, you know, all the different things. They probably have some of that that can be automated out. But a lot of this is going to be, you know, stuff that you have to actually, you know, take a physical eye and look at. So this is one reason that their customer service has gone away from like having tons of GMs that they, you know, have on staff, and has gone more towards the route of like automating things like automated reporting. Automatically, you know, mutes the person, and if enough reports come in, the person gets banned, and that's to cut down on the physical number of people that are working at Blizzard, because that costs legitimately tons of money. To give you an idea, one of the companies I worked for, they had 1,000 people on their IT, you know, infrastructure who had like actual Windows accounts and had to log into their computers and, you know, get on the network and access things. And I was on the help desk for this company, and there were 4-5 people on help desk, and we had a ticket queue that we'd get just from that 1,000 people, we'd probably get 50 to 75 tickets a day. So that's 4 of us for 1,000 people, or 5 of us for 1,000 people, right? So scale that up to millions of people, and you start to see the problem very quickly with how many people you actually physically need to be sitting in offices looking at individual issues, reviewing logs. I mean, there is so much that goes into the process of just like time-consuming work that, yeah, I can totally understand why Blizzard would want to go that route. Now, counter argument, do I think that they should go that route? Yes, I think they need to do something where they're going to have a dedicated support team that is just specifically looking at this, because they cannot allow the right-click reporting in at the way that it's implemented now. It will completely wreck the flow of the game and kind of how you know, Classic handles. But at the same time, I think there needs to be a good reporting system. And also back to the phasing thing for a little bit. I think that's why that they are going to want to implement phasing into Classic, because they may not have the way that their servers work now may not be able to actually handle the load values of like the number of active players at once. There is a chance that the way that the servers just handle people, handle, you know, usage, sometimes based on, you know, architecture, the way that it's programmed, a million different things, it could potentially cause issues to have that many people live at once. And that may be why they went to phasing in the first place, because it was just easier to do at the time. And now it's, you know, a number of problems that World of Warcraft has experienced over the years have been from Band-Aid fixes that turned into long-term fixes. So this could just be another example of that. But let's see. Yeah. So back to the banning thing. I think one thing that they could do is potentially use the community for this. I think if they had some way of using volunteer GMs or something along those lines, where they can have, you know, people who are in the community, active players who have a passion for the game, you know, be able to help take some of that load. That is a realistic solution in my mind, because then you don't have to be hiring a ton of people. You don't have to have this massive support team that you have to put on salary. I mean, there's like a million reasons why this would be great. I really strongly think that they should try and do something like that. There is a caveat to that, and that is, of course, that people are kind of jerks, and that you could easily get people in there that are abusing that. And so it would have to be a pretty closely monitored system. But if they do it right, I think it could potentially take a lot of the pressure off of them to, you know, have something in place that can handle just the sheer number of people that they're going to be dealing with. Because, I mean, think about how long tickets took. You know, a ticket could take 2-3 days to get taken care of if you're on a heavily populated server back in the day. So it could very easily be a similar queue time, or worse, without the automated systems in place. However, I think that the pros far outweigh the cons on that one. So anyway, tell me what you guys think, and if you have any questions, put them down below, and I will be happy to talk about anything. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.